guys, this is Amanda again. In this video, we will talk about Israel and Palestine. So you heard some conservatives say that queers for Palestine makes as much sense as chickens for KFC. Well, they are wrong as always. They're totally wrong in their assumption that the Palestinian people are against the LGBT community. This is a dangerous assumption which is grounded in Islamophobia and racism. In this video, I will prove to you that the Palestinian people are liberal and open-minded people who are pro-women and pro-democracy. And everything is Israel's fault. So before we continue, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with family and friends. This is a new channel and more interesting content is coming up. Let's start with flags. On the left, you see the LGBT pride flag, and on the right, you can see the Palestinian flag. Don't you see the similarities? It's the same idea, inward-facing triangle, plus some stripes, and even some colors are the same. The Palestinian people obviously copied their flag from the LGBT pride flag. Their relationship with queer people is so meaningful and profound that they had to commemorate that in their flag. One flag is obviously a derivative of the other. You see, it's like the modern Palestinian people are direct descendants of the ancient Philistine people. It's the same relationship. Ultimately, your friendliness to the LGBT community is measured by your attitudes towards trans people. That's the litmus test. And here's when the practice of female circumcision comes in. So this practice is basically partial or complete removal of external female genitalia, also known as female genital mutilation. But you know how in America we have all these conservatives who say that transgender care is basically mutilation? Well, it's the same wording and the same idea. Female circumcision is basically a trans surgery conducted on mass scales in North Africa, the Middle East, and some parts of Asia. An estimated number of 200 million women alive today have undergone this surgery. Whoa, that's a lot of trans people. You see how advanced they are? As a minor criticism, I have to mention that this kind of surgery should also be available for people assigned male at birth, otherwise it's not fair. But we also can't expect everything at once. We do have to point out that the Palestinians are headed in the right direction on the trans issue. The fact that they have been prioritizing women for this practice shows how progressive and pro-feminist they are. There are other practices in the Middle Eastern culture that are reserved exclusively for women, like burnings, beatings, and honor killings. Sounds a little bit strange, right? But remember that we have to account for cultural differences. Remember diversity, equity, and inclusion? We don't want people who are different from us to feel excluded. So if two consenting adults engage in an honor killing, why do you even care? Like, what makes you a better person? Just step aside, get humbled, and show some respect for other people's indigenous culture. The only time when you don't need to show respect to other people for being different is when it comes to conservatives. Like, you know, when conservatives talk about the Bible or when they want to have like prayers in schools. They're just bigots, fascists, Nazis, domestic terrorists, and they're just really backward people. So yeah, you don't have to respect them. One more stereotype that I would like to talk about is this idea that in Palestine, gay people are thrown off rooftops. This is totally wrong. So a bunch of ignorant and Islamophobic people saw some pictures online and made wrong assumptions. But I know what's really going on because I did my research. This is simply a coming out tradition in the Middle East. It developed before the invention of the internet. Back in the day, let's say you are a Palestinian living in some village in Syria. And as you're growing up, you realize that you're different, right? And then you start questioning your sexual orientation and or gender identity, and then you realize that you are, for example, a pansexual non-binary lesbian, let's just say. How would you let your fellow villagers know? The best thing to do is to go on top of the tallest building in your village and do your coming out there. There would be a person standing behind the gay person, obviously providing emotional support, while the crowd is cheering excitingly below. You see, it's time to rethink your stereotypes. Now, for the longest time, we, the progressive people, have been pushing to lower the age of consent because children deserve to explore their sexuality. Well, the Palestinians never had the concept of the age of consent to begin with. They have been doing child marriages since forever, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. All these things are extremely common in the Middle East, but it's worth noting that there has been a slow decrease in these practices due to harmful Western influences. You know how white people go places and destroy unique native cultures and change the way people live? Yeah, so that's what's happening, and Israel has been a huge part of it, eradicating female circumcision in its territory for one thing. This is another reason why you should oppose Israel. In Palestine, they really care about female education. Let me see, the number of Israeli Arab women with college degrees has doubled in the last decade. Wait, this is the wrong statistics. Why am I even talking about this apartheid state? I'm sorry. Let's talk about Palestine. So, absolute majority of Palestinian women graduate kindergarten. And that's an important academic achievement because kindergarten is where education starts, right? Kindergarten is where education starts. Some kindergartens in California, for example, teach everything I learned in my gender studies college classes, but of course on a basic level. There were democratic elections in Gaza overseen by international observers, and Hamas won by a landslide. They did elections again, and Hamas won again. This shows that the innocent Gazans have nothing to do with Hamas. It also shows that democracy is a great, fail-proof system that we as Westerners should try to impose on every group of people. Now we need to ask the question why, right? Why are such liberal and open-minded people committing acts of extreme violence? The answer is simple. They are reacting to oppression and occupation from the Israeli government. They just suffered too much. It wouldn't be right, therefore, to call them terrorists. They're not terrorists, they're just militants fighting for freedom. So let's just zoom out and see a bigger picture here. This kind of behavior is not limited to Palestine. There are other militant groups all over the world, such as Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, etc., committing militant attacks in other places. All these groups are interconnected. On October 7th, Hamas killed Israeli civilians with American weapons left over in Afghanistan and picked up by Taliban. There are black members in Hamas, obviously coming from Africa. All these militant groups are working together, trading weapons, exchanging people and training. And in the meantime, the world is not concerned because why would it be? When Al-Qaeda committed the militant attack of 9/11, when Iran executed women for taking off their hijabs, when ISIS beheaded people, things like that, they were and they are doing stuff like that out of solidarity with their oppressed brothers in Palestine. If it wasn't for Israel, they would have no reason or inclination to commit militant attacks all over the world. If it wasn't for Israel 40 plus something radical Islamic terror organizations with hundreds of thousands of members wouldn't even exist. And all the Hamas members would just be nice and compassionate people. They wouldn't be raping, torturing, or burning anybody. Another important question, where does the money come from? Because everyone would agree that militancy is expensive, right? You need money to buy missiles, grenade launchers, assault rifles, and also knives to behead people. This is why the Palestinian issue is so central here. Because when the UN and other charitable organizations and individuals hear of oppressed people, they immediately open their hearts and their wallets. This is billions of dollars annually, and it has been happening for 80 years. And at this point, anyone can tell that the money has been used for humanitarian purposes only. Now, I hope you understand that there are numerous reasons why you should support the Palestinian people. You need to do it in the name of progress and tolerance. This is the only way to increase peace and prosperity in this world. When was the last time you donated to the Palestinian cause? To all the people screaming "Free Palestine" and "Gas the Jews" while waving swastikas, good job. I am proud of you. I'll tell you what, if you support the Palestinians long enough, we will see Hamas and other militant groups grow and spread even more all over the world. At some point, the freedom fighters will come to our neighborhoods, and that's exactly what we need. Because we are oppressed by the patriarchy, those evil cisgendered white men who run this country oppress women and minorities every single day. So I really hope that Hamas comes to this country and helps us overthrow this racist government, and then they will put the indigenous people back in charge, because this is also stolen land. We just have to figure out which tribe to give it to, because one tribe took it from the other tribe, and then that other tribe conquered it from some other tribe, and it goes really far back, and we really don't have any written records. Wait, the first people who came to this country crossed the Bering Strait from Russia like 30,000 years ago. Does it mean that Hamas needs to give America back to Russia? But Russia is a bad guy because they attacked Ukraine, and anytime you attack another country, you are... Wait, this is not going in a good direction, and I don't want to get off topic. So hopefully the Hamas freedom fighters will come and free us from oppression and give the stolen land back to indigenous people, and together we will crush the patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, and heteronormativity.